Hello guys, I am Shantanu and this is today's video note from the Hindu and the PIB. Now regarding today's note, it is going to be very important from the relations, the political relations between India and some of other important countries. First of all, the India-China relation. Now, on the sidelines of the ninth BRICS summit at Xiamen, there has been a bilateral meeting between Indian Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi and Chinese President Mr. Xi Jinping. In that meeting, both parties have urged to move forward from the Doklam conflict towards a new round of engagement with the focus on CBM, which stands for Confidence Building Measures. Now, this is to ensure peace along the borders of both the countries. This is regarded as a constructive start with an objective of solid anchorage. It will be further boosted by deep ties between the countries in the Indian Ocean and the Asia Pacific region. Now, for the first time in this bilateral meeting, there has been a hint that China is going to agree with India's standpoint against international terrorism. There has been stress given on strong contact efforts. These efforts should be on a regular basis and should be with positive intent between the defense and security personnel from both the countries. Moving on to the next news, which is very important from India-Japan defense relations perspective. There has been annual defense ministerial dialogue. Now, India and Japan both want to further strengthen the defense and security cooperation under the framework of Japan-India Special Strategic and Global Partnership, which is in line with the Memorandum of Understanding in Defense Cooperation and Exchange, which was signed in September 2014, and the Defense Framework Agreement, which was signed in 2015. Now, there has been discussion regarding the current security situation in the Indo-Pacific, and both the countries agrees with the condemnation of the North Korea's nuclear test. Now, there has been stress on regular interaction at all levels, particularly in the staff levels of the three important services, that is the Air Force, the Armed Forces, and Navy. Now, these dialogues should be institutionalized. Now, there has been exchange between Japan Ground Self-Defense Force and Indian Army on the grounds of PKO, that is the Peacekeeping Organization, on counter-terrorism, and on the field of humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, which is very important from India's perspective. Now, Japan Ground Self-Defense Force would invite the Indian Armed Forces personnel to visit the HADR exercise conducted by JGSDF, that is the Japan Ground Self-Defense Force, as guest. Now, when it comes to exchanges in Navy, we can think of Malabar 2017 naval exercise, which was a tripartite one between India, Japan, and United States, which is very important regarding the Pacific region politics. Now, there has been a discussion about training on the anti-submarine warfare. Regarding warfare, we need to keep in mind that Japan has participated in Aero India 2017. There has been talks about collaboration and personnel exchange in defense research and development, and also in defense equipment and technology. Some specific areas are noted. Those areas are collaboration in defense equipment, technical cooperation, framework of the Joint Working Group on Defense Equipment and Technical Cooperation. A special discussion on US-2, which is an amphibious aircraft, has taken place. Now, moving on to the next news. Our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, is currently visiting the country of Myanmar. So, there has been some memorandum of understanding signed between the two countries. Now, the different fields on which these MOUs have been signed are maritime security cooperation, cultural exchange program, enhancing the cooperation of the upgradation of the Women's Police Training Center at Yamithin in Myanmar. Now, there has been a more regarding white shipping info sharing. What is white shipping? It is mainly sharing the information about the cargo ships and the maritime traffic in their respective oceanic territories. Now, there has been memorandum of understanding signed in the field of technical assistance for providing coastal surveillance system and medical products regulation, medicine and health. Now, in skill building part, there has been a MOU for an India Myanmar Center for Enhancement of IT skill and two important fields. One is the field of elections. There has been MOUs between the election commissions of both the countries and the press councils of both the countries. Now, there are some key points regarding Indo-Myanmar relation. Myanmar is going to use India's experience in governing a democracy. India will help Myanmar in capacity building of the institutions like the executive, the legislature, the election commission, and the press council, which are four important institutions for a democracy. Now, India and Myanmar both are having common interest on security. They both want to ensure stability in long territorial and coastal borders. Now, in this regard, we need to remember that Myanmar is sharing 1600 kilometers boundary line with the northeastern states of India. Now, there has been relations in the field of constructions of roads, bridges, and also in the energy sector. Both will work on Sitwa Port and Paletwa Inland Waterways Terminal in Kaladan project, which is already completed. Work on the road component has already been started. Two-way movement of high-speed diesel trucks have already been on the way. Now, they both want to have development of high-quality health, education, research facilities. Myanmar want to have an institution on information technology, and India is helping to build the MIIT, which stands for Myanmar Institution of Information Technology, and there has been an advanced center for agricultural research. Very important thing that India has granted gratis visa to all the citizens of Myanmar who wants to come back in India. Regarding this, we need to know about what gratis visa are. Now, gratis visa is a visa which is given free of charge. This is specially given to the diplomats and the officials which are having in bilateral relations between the two countries. India has also released 40 Myanmar prisoners from Indian jail. Now, one of the important note is there which will come good in the essay paper and also in the ethics paper and also in the economy paper. Now, President's lecture on the occasion of probation of the 67th batch of IRS. He talked about collection of revenue is critical to the task of nation building. Tax collection should be a smooth process and it should provide minimum discomfort to the taxpayers. So, two key important areas are that tax collection should be a smooth process and it should have minimum discomfort to the taxpayers. In this regard, we need to remember the Chanakya's quote. Chanakya told that a government should collect taxes like a honeybee, which collects just the right amount of honey from the flowers so that both can survive. So the tax amount cannot be very high or it cannot be very low. If the tax amount is very high, people will not survive. If the tax amount is very low, government will not survive. Now, this is the age of modernization, globalization, and technical advancement. Now, this will provide opportunities for the trade and investment as well as creates avenue for the fraud and money laundering. So, we need to keep check on the second aspect. He also told that a credible tax system can only be built by some credible tax officers. There is an important news between India and Malaysia. The Ujala scheme, which has been very successful in India, is launched in Malaysia. Ujala stands for Unnat Yoti by affordable lighting for all. Ujala is promoting the energy efficiency, its nodal organization in India is EESL, which stands for Energy Efficiency Services Limited, which is under the Ministry of Power. Now, if we need to remember the keywords regarding this Ujala scheme, it is a zero subsidy model. It is creating a competition among the manufacturers, because in India, whenever you want to implement Ujala scheme, you need to provide the LED bulbs in bulk. Now it creates a bulk demand, and which creates a competition among the manufacturers. So the prices of the LED bulbs will come down. This will give the affordability of the LED. Now, if the Ujala becomes successful, two things will happen. First of all, from environment's perspective, the CO2 reduction will be there, and from public's perspective, the reduction in the electricity bills will be there. Now, there has been a publication by the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, Shipping, Water Resources, River Development and Ganga Rejuvenation, that Road Accidents in India 2016 report. It has said that road accident has been decreased by 4% during 2016, although the fatalities in these accidents have risen. The most vulnerable groups are 18 to 45, which accounts for 68% of the road accidents. Accidents along the highways have been reduced, and two-wheelers are found to be most prone to road accidents. Now, if we want to focus on the reasons behind these road accidents, there are some important reasons. One is driver's fault, next is alcohol intake of the driver, next is talking on phone while driving, and another important issue is overloading of vehicles. Now, governments need to take a multi-pronged approach to ensure and promote safety on the roads. Different perspective of this approach is road engineering to enhance the safety, improved vehicle safety standards, education and awareness creation among the drivers and the general public, enforcement of the road safety laws, and if there is an accident after all of it, there must be a post accident response and trauma care facilities. There should be district level committee which will be led by local MP as chairman to monitor the road security in that particular district, to identify the black spots, to suggest the road security measures. Now, there is also an important suggestion that the local committee will have to communicate with the local polytechnic students to improve the road conditions of that district. Now, in this way, we can communicate with the civil society, with the educational institutions at the district level. There has been a talk of Niti Aayog to create a task force on employment and export. Okay. This is to provide a major thrust to job creation by enhancing India's exports. Niti Aayog Vice Chairman Dr. Rajiv Kumar is as chairman of this particular task force. Now, if there is a task force, there will be some task. Now, although there are high aspirations among the Indian workforce, it is always found that they are joining the low productivity jobs, the low wage jobs, and they are mostly working in small and medium enterprises and own account enterprises. Now, to come out of this, India needs an urgent and sustained expansion even in its organized sector. Now, unorganized sector or the informal sector has always been a key challenge in India's labor reforms. Now, here we can see that the organized sector is also not free of challenges. Now, there should be a shift towards the labor intensive goods and services which are destined for exports. India needs to create an environment which makes it globally competitive. So there are certain steps that should be taken. What are those steps? First, proposing a comprehensive plan of action to generate the employment and alleviate underemployment in both the goods and services sectors. Now, instead of having some generalized policy intervention, it should be in sector specific policy intervention in key employment generating sectors. Measures to enhance the trade in services with high employment potential. Identifying the key macroeconomic factors, those are constraining our exports, and we need to suggest some methods to address these constraints. Assessing the effectiveness of existing schemes regarding exports, addressing the issues related to logistics, export credits, and trade facilitations. Data availability on trade is going to be very important. Now, regarding data, it should be reliable, it should be globally comparable, and it should be timely. In next news, stricter norms for corporate governance. This news have already been discussed yesterday. This is from the Department of Economic Affairs, or the Financial Services rather. Now, directors and the authorized signatory of a struck-up company will be penalized if they are found to siphon off the money from the bank account. If they don't file return for 3 years, they will be disqualified from being appointed in any other company as director. Now, banks need to identify the actual beneficiaries of these shell companies. Now, what is a shell company? A shell company acts as a vehicle for the business transactions without itself having significant amount of operators and significant assets. Now, this is often a way for money laundering. Now, India at the BRICS put up some important issues like counter-terrorism, cyber security, disaster management, a greener world, creating a more enabled world, inclusive world, digital world, skill world, connected world, healthier world, equitable world, and harmonious world. Now, these are very important when you are going to write an essay. Now, regarding BRICS, we already know the different countries which are in this institution, but in this 9th BRICS summit, there has been some observers like all the other BRICS summits. These observers are Egypt, Tajikistan, Thailand, Mexico, and Guinea. Now, there is news regarding the Rohingyas. Just yesterday, Supreme Court has asked the Indian government to explain why it wants to deport the Rohingyas. Now, on behalf of Indian government, Union Minister of State for the Home, Mr. Kiren Rijiju, said that the Rohingyas are illegal immigrants and they need to be deported as per law. Now, we need to revise the political issue regarding the Rohingyas. Rohingyas are a minority Muslim community settled in the Rakhine state of Myanmar. Now they are feeling unsafe and they are fleeing out of the country after being caught in violent ethnic clashes. Now, this is a very important political issue regarding the northeast states. There is a group like the NIDA, which stands for the Northeast Democratic Alliance, in which it has been decided to seal the border because there has been an issue of undocumented Bangladeshi immigrants coming into India, and the northeastern states won't allow it. Although Amnesty International has asked for India's intervention in this issue, India and Myanmar are having important and very friendly relation in past also. So Amnesty International wants India to diffuse the tension in Myanmar and save civilians' lives. Now, an important news, financing power to the joint secretaries have been given for the first time. This is applicable to the Home Ministry, joint secretaries. They can spend up to rupees 50 crore for executing works and purchasing land for that particular work. They can also make procurement through open or limited tender up to 20 crore and negotiated and single tender or proprietary contract of up to 5 crore. Now, this is done to bring flexibility in the system, to reduce the delays, to facilitate the quick decisions on the matters involving, and matters involving financial expenditure. So this is a part of decentralizing the authority. They can also give authorization of expenditure sanction of up to 20 crore for purchase of operational vehicles for the central armed police forces. They can sign agreement for both collaborative and consultancy services up to 2 crore. Earlier, this financial power was given only to the Union Home Secretary levels. There has been a discussion to have a policy to develop the agri clusters. In the 10th Agriculture Leadership Summit 2017, which has taken place in New Delhi, farmers have a right to have an access to the global market to get better prices for their produce. Governments need to develop global supply chain to avail farmers these things. Now, works need to be done to eliminate the trade restrictions. Now, what are the trade restrictions regarding the agri products? In some countries, Indian products are barred on the grounds of health and safety regulation. There has been issue of tariff barriers, especially import duties are higher in overseas market, which makes Indian agro products less competitive. Now, the idea of MSP, that is the minimum support price, has always been used as the maximum probable price that can be given to the farmer. This is not an intelligent way of going into the future, which wants to have an increase in the farmer's income. Now, in this regard, we need to remember that there will be a ministerial conference at WTO level for these agricultural products and agricultural trades at Argentina in 2017 December. So, these are the important news for today. Have a wonderful night. Good night.